Um, I figured I spent at least 30 nights sleeping in a hammock last year, not only just camping with the paddle club and paddle camping, but also I sleep in my hammock at my deer camp, and I do a lot of deer camping, deer hunting, and camp for that. So roll some pictures. Those are Enos. I don't know much about the Enos. I've never camped on one. All right, so I think we're going to stop for a minute right there and talk about the pros of hammock camping. So the biggest benefit of it, by far, in my opinion, is the comfort. It is absolutely way more comfortable than sleeping in any tent. When I bought my first hammock, I had probably 5 or 6 tents and probably 5 or 6 different sleeping pads. And I got in a hammock and never wanted to get back in a tent again. So comfort to me is above all. And the reason you're comfortable, for one thing, you're off the rocks, the roots, the unlevel ground. You're dry. You're above the critters that are crawling on the ground. They're pretty quick to pitch, to set up. Very good air circulation when it's hot. To that, I would say, with temperatures as high as 70 degrees, you can be cold in your hammock. You have to have some insulation. Next, it's a modular shelter, and I guess what we mean by that is you can mix up hammocks and flies and top quilts and under quilts and top covers, bottom covers. There are all kind of products made by a large number of manufacturers, and most of them are interchangeable. So you don't have to go with one brand for everything you buy. In fact, most of the guys I know have a mixture of all kind of equipment. Is that correct for you, Aubrey? And Robert and Tim? Yeah, we got some guys here that have been camping in it for a while. And we all pretty much have different brands. So your flexibility in campsites, killer views. Looks like that guy in that Eno has a pretty nice view over the river. You couldn't consider pitching a tent right there. And a big thing is to leave no trace. When you're going to set up a tent, you're going to first clear the ground. Once you camp there and you leave your mark, it's going to be a cleared area where you camp. With a hammock, you don't have to do much of that. They are extremely packable and lightweight. Moving on to the cons. The steep learning curve in the beginning is pretty significant, and I guess that's partly why most of you are here. For me, I had other people in the paddle club that I could see what they were setting up. I watched them and learned from them. Was how I went through my learning curve. But still, the first time I went camping in a hammock, there was an awful lot to do, an awful lot to learn. It doesn't seem like it, but you're not only dealing with the hammock, you're generally dealing with the tarp and the other components to it. Must have suitable trees, 12 to 15 feet apart. Some say 13 to 20. It depends what your limitations are. One thing I find when you get above 15 feet apart, you have to reach up so high to get that strap in the tree that I start to look for something to stand on to get it high enough so your angle comes down and you're at seat level. Also, most of them are designed for one person. I understand the Enos have some 2 people, and there are some 2 people hammocks that people actually sleep in. I've never tried it. Can't speak from experience. They're generally not good for people who feel claustrophobic. I don't know. My wife had real claustrophobic issues in the tent, and you know, I don't think she's had much of a problem in the war bonnet. The war bonnet has pull-out sides, and so it does make it feel pretty roomy. And depending on how high you set your fly, you know, you can make it feel nice and roomy. Although when it's really cold, I tend to want to let the hammock tighten up a little bit more. I'd rather it be small to have the doghouse effect, you know, so you stay warmer. And of course, the hammock setup is a little bit heavier in cold weather because you bring in extra gear, but you know, so is your tent for that matter. You can roll with it. So along the leave no trace, the last three items are significant to backpacking. I mean, to hammock camping. You know, avoiding putting too small a rope around the tree that might damage the bark. You want to do that with the thick straps. Camping on the durable surfaces like rock and all. And the last line is the good campsites are found, not made, which that's different than tents. You generally are going to make a tent site. So here's a good example of what you can camp over. You don't need to worry about the snow. You don't need to worry about the rocks under you. So that's part of the leave no trace and part of why you can be comfortable. Some good safety tips here. The most important one, never forget to look up for the widowmakers. I had a huge branch come down and just missed my hammock one time. But you do want to make sure you don't have dead branches hanging over you. As you're getting in and out the hammock, you could be shaking the tree a little bit, and that could be enough to cause it to fall on you. Lee side. You have the windward and the lee side of any hill. And that's suggesting that you should always try to be on the lee side in the wintertime, and it may be just the opposite in the summertime where you want that breeze hitting you. So, here's a couple examples. I've never tried it, of no tree camping, but they are more or less setting this up as a bivvy, and there is some instructions that you can find on YouTube about how to sleep in it as a bivvy where you're not really off the ground. But also, you don't necessarily need two trees. There are some YouTube videos which show you how with one tree and like a 5-foot pole, you could set a 5-foot pole on one end, and as long as you sharpen that pole and plant it in the ground, if the bottom of that pole doesn't come up, you get in it and you will not fall over. Pretty neat to do. I've never tried it. I've always found the trees I need. Yes?
Carl, on your previous slide, it said wait 30 minutes after lightning strike. Why is that?
Wait 30 minutes after lightning strikes.
They do that at football games. That's just a safety football.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's anything really specific to a hammock. Yeah, you wouldn't want to pitch a tent. Yeah, I think that's just general safety, which goes with the site selection, and it's not so much hammock. Yes, trees are a pretty good lightning rod.
Lightning can get you 10 miles away from a thunderstorm and clear blue skies. I think that's why they come up with that 30-minute thing, just to give it a chance to move away.
Yeah, so did y'all hear that? Aubrey's telling us that lightning can strike 30 miles?
10 to 20.
10 to 20 miles away from the last lightning strike. So it's that's why they say that, is just trying to keep you safe out there. Any other questions so far?
Yeah, can you explain the cold butt syndrome? And what do you do to combat it?
The cold butt syndrome. Okay, he asked me to explain the cold butt syndrome. Well, that slide, the next slide, that's how you combat it. Well,
There you go.
this is how you combat the cold butt syndrome. But most new people in hammocks aren't going to jump right into an underquilt, particularly a down underquilt is pretty expensive. There's the cold butt syndrome. But because, you know, if you jump in your hammock and you get in a sleeping bag, when you're going to lay on that sleeping bag, you're going to compress, particularly if it's down, you're going to compress the insulation and you won't have any insulation under you. So that's where the cold butt syndrome comes from. Or if you're new to it, and like most of us, when we first start sleeping in a hammock, we use the same inflatable or the same pad we used in our tent, which is fine for a while. Some people really like it. But you can easily it can slide out from under you. If you don't have insulation under you, like I said earlier, in temperatures as high as 70 degrees, you can get cold in a hammock. So, does that explain it good enough, Robert? All right. And of course, the war bonnet, which is the hammock I sleep in, does have a very good mosquito net, so bugs generally aren't a problem. So here's all the different types of tarps. You know, a tarp's an integral part of hammock camping. You know, pretty much everyone in the club, when we go camping, even when the weather's great, we're usually going to put a tarp up. If it's wintertime, which is when we do most of our camping, we're looking for some warm. The doghouse effect. You're breathing in your body heat, heating up that space under your tarp can really make a difference. We've camped in all kinds of pour down rains, and it's just amazing. The water tends to run down the line of the tarp and drip outside. We just never have trouble with water coming under the tarp. It works amazingly well.
Which configuration do you typically use?
I do the Superfly, which is basically like this one. And there is a Superfly upstairs after when we go look. The main features, so it's the most protected.
I guess the trade-off with that is weight.
Yeah, but it's extremely lightweight. But yeah, it's a
little over a pound.
It's a little over a pound. So, you know, a lot of people are looking at weight that are really into the backpacking, and hammocks can vary a good bit, but I have pretty much the heaviest of everything, and it all fits in this bag. So, I guess while we're doing that, why don't I show you what's in the bag? These are not door prizes. So this is my underquilt. Feel that. 800 down, super light. The hammock itself, the XLC, with the straps and all the guidelines, take up that amount. And by the way, this hammock is a double 1.7, so it's the heaviest war bonnet they make, other than the Ridge Runner. The Ridge Runner has poles on each end of it that keep it open, more like a traditional backyard hammock. I don't know of anyone who has one. I've never seen anyone sleep in it. And you talk about the Superfly. being heavy, that's the biggest tarp up there. And then I also like a pillow. But I looked around a whole bunch for this size pillow. When you're lying on your back in a hammock, you don't need a pillow at all. I just don't use it. Typically my pillow will be up on the shelf while I'm laying on my back. I usually lay on my back for a while, and usually before I'm ready to fall asleep, I roll over on one side and I tuck a very little skinny pillow, and that's all I ever feel I need. So that's the whole thing, other than the XLC I have, and I've never even put this on it yet. For next winter, I'm going to be better prepared. The whole mosquito net unzips, comes off, and I could put a solid piece over the top of it to increase the doghouse effect, keep me warmer. Although when you're camping, the mosquito net really holds in a lot of heat. You wouldn't think so, but when you're sleeping and it's really cold and you unzip that mosquito net, you can feel the cold air difference. So that's my bag. Couple more things I could show y'all on that. Well, I think we'll wait till we get further down the road. All right, staying warm. So, like I said about in explaining the cold butt syndrome, crawling in a sleeping bag is going to compress what's under you, and you're likely to get cold. That's why people who sleep in the cold all have underquilts. But if you're not too seriously into the cold, a lot of these hammocks have a double bottom, and you can slip in your inflatable pad or whatever pad you have now that you're camping in a tent with. Most of them can fit underneath there and will do you a lot of good. Although if you have a self-inflating air mattress, you don't want to let it inflate all the way. Or even if you're blowing it up. Any kind of inflating air mattress, you want to let a significant amount of air out of it so that it remains flexible, so it won't tend to want to slip out from under you. So this guy, no doubt, that's not a sleeping bag. He's covered with a top quilt. And because your underquilt and the hammock itself comes up all around you, you get a lot of warmth from the bottom, and all you have is a little bit area on top that you need to cover up the top. And that's why the top quilts seem to be preferable to sleeping bags. Any questions about that? All right.
Now, the underquilt have a full or just half.
Right. I hope my gear comes back to me. The underquilt that I passed around, it's not a full length like this one. The one I've been using really only covers from your shoulder to your knees. And of course, even though you're looking at the sides of this it's down. You know, when you stuff it in your boat or in your backpack, you can compress it a whole lot more. So the thinking on the short underquilt is you're probably going to have some type of little pad that you might be sitting on anyway, or, you know, generally bring another pad, and you put the pad from your knees down just to keep your bottom of your legs warm. Your bottom of your legs don't get as cold as the rest of your body, don't lose as much heat, and it doesn't take as much insulation under them. Although when you're camping in 30-degree weather, you If you're going that low, you better have more than just a little pad under you. And notice he's wearing a beanie cap. I mean, absolutely vital in cold weather.
Yeah, since you're not using a mummy bag.
Right, since you're not in your mummy bag and bringing that over your head. And your pillow is quite important as insulation as well. So between your small pillow and your cap, beanie cap, that's all you need.
Do you use any shelves, like you put that guy line, like can you go over the guy line, like can you take on the top and explain that a little bit? When you're setting up the fly.
I've got a YouTube video that's going to do a better job of that than I will. So I guess we're probably going to go to that in just a second. This is the last slide, so we're almost through with this phase anyway. But lots of resources up here. You might want to pull your phone out and take a picture of that screen. The Ultimate Hang is a book that's been around for quite a while. Packy Paddle does sell copies of it. But you can also go online and get lots of information there. This Sean Shug Emery. Shug. He is a real entertainer. This guy has probably, I don't know, 25 to 50 YouTubes of all kinds of things, but he is really into hammock camping. He is into lightweight hammock backpacking in Minnesota in minus 20-degree weather. So you can get a lot of information from him, and he's very entertaining to watch. I've been to all of these sites. They're all pretty interesting. And there's so much you can see on YouTube if you Google any of this stuff. A lot of it is pretty long and drawn out, though. And so we're not going to be showing any of that. The one thing we are going to show, if you go to the War Bonnet website, the one thing I thought we would do is take a look at the setup instructions for the Blackbird. Because this guy right there is Brandon. He's the owner of the company. This company is all American made. Their factory's in Colorado, which is one of the big reasons why a lot of it really allows you to be your upper body to lay flat. And for those of you who might be thinking you have to sleep on your back, you do not. You can sleep on your side. I typically roll from one side to the other during the night. I know some people sleep on their belly in the hammock. I mean, in that hammock you can do that. So however you sleep in your bed, you can do it here. But one thing you can do that doesn't seem to work in bed is you can do quarter angles. You could be quarter on your side in the hammock. You can't do that in your bed. You know, I mean, whatever angle you want in the hammock, you have so much support around you, it'll support you at virtually any angle you want. Like he says, you just got to find the sweet spot, which is comfortable for you. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, that's sweet spot or sweet spot?
Sweet spot to sleep sweet.
Now that model looks like it's not cut like what I would expect a hammock to be cut. Like it's.
Okay, it's an end-gathered hammock, like most of them. However, he does have a foot box. So one side of it, and you can go upstairs and see it, one side where the foot box is, the seam just goes out and there's some extra fabric there to allow you to lay down at about a 10 to 20 degree angle off the center line of the hammock. And that's what allows you to be flat.
And that's a feature unique to that model or that manufacturer, or they're all pretty much.
The foot box is kind of a unique to that model, I believe. Does your Clark have it?
A lot of them build asymmetric hammocks.
Yeah, there are other asymmetrics. The Hennessy is not.
With the rich rod, isn't that asymmetric?
No.
Grand Trunks is
Yeah, but you know, even in a Eno, which is or a Hennessy, which is a gathered in hammock, you can lay on a diagonal on them. You,
Doesn't that help a little bit too with sway?
probably, I don't know why sway would be an issue. Most of us like a little bit of sway.
I've heard some people that have motion sickness issues get.
I haven't heard anyone have motion sickness in a hammock on trees, but yeah, interesting.
If you're laying like a banana, it's going to be hard to sway.
Yeah, when you're on that little bit of an angle. I never noticed any swaying. No. All the guys that sleep in it all the time are saying, nah, we don't notice that. Are they different sizes? Yes. That one he was displaying was the Blackbird. Right next to it here is the XLC Blackbird. And the XLC stands for extra long, and the C stands for cover. It is, they just came out with that model recently. It is his second generation. And there are quite a bit of differences in it. And if you go to this web page and click on that YouTube right there, he'll explain all the differences on it. I just recently got the XLC and I really love it. It's a foot longer. I happen to go with a heavier weight fabric than on my previous one. I'm not too worried about weight because my kayak can handle the weight no problem, and of course my truck has no problem. So it's not enough weight, I think, to worry about. The other big feature about it, actually it moved everything towards the head end. And so with that hammock you tend to even, he said you put the foot moderately higher than the head end. If you listen to the Blackbird, he'll say significantly higher. And again, it's just that with time, they've learned that you can get an even flatter lay by moving everything to that head end more and offsetting it even more. Any other questions?
Is that just specific to those type of hammocks where you would put your feet higher, or is it any hammock would be more up?
He's asking if it's specific to this hammock, and no, it's pretty much any hammock, any gathered in hammock for sure is all going to act about the same.
I had a picture of the Ridge Runner, which is the bridge hammock.
Can you roll that down?
Right there.
Yeah, see, so the Ridge Runner, and I don't pretend to really know anything about it, other than you can see it has poles that keep it spread, more like a traditional backyard hammock. So you have the gathered in hammocks and you have the spread hammock, and it's a spread hammock.
That one you can lay directly flat. There's no sway in.
And so you don't lay on a diagonal in that, do you? Yeah, you can't. And your Clark is that same design, right? No? Oh, your Clark. Okay, so Aubrey here has a Clark design, and it has poles, but it's still a gathered in. The poles are all about keeping his space, his bug net off of him. So that's what that's about. There are a lot of different brands of hammocks out there. Many, many brands. Yes?
Have you had any trouble with wear out on the fabric itself, or tears?
No, we've had no trouble with, well, okay, we've had no trouble with wear out. I did once on the Buffalo River trip. What was it, the second night we were there, I believe? Yeah. I was sleeping and I heard a rip. I really didn't feel anything, so I just stayed asleep. The middle of the night, I got the cold butt syndrome. So I'm like, what is going on? Why's my butt cold? So I reach down under me, and I'm in a double layer hammock, and at the time, I didn't have the underquilt. Or maybe I had, well, no, I didn't have it. And so I had a self-inflating air mattress in between that double layer. And the bottom had ripped. The bottom layer of the bottom layer ripped all the way across. And so as I moved around, my mattress was starting to slide out through that crack. But I slept in it for the rest of that trip. Probably slept in it 5 more nights. Never had a problem. So when I get back home, I call Brandon, and of course he didn't know me for Adam, but I told him about the incident, and I told him I was planning on going camping the next weekend. I think it took 3 days. I had a brand new hammock arrived at my doorstep, free of charge. Doesn't know what happened to it. Possibly, you know, some thorn or stick of bush got it. Once you make a little rip in it, I think it's gone. It's going to rip. It was a 1.1 fabric, which is probably one of the reasons I went to the double 1.7 the next time I ordered. But as far as for wear, I've never seen any wear. And how long's Joe been camping in his Hennessy? Probably 5 or 6 years. He's got the old style, which was a bottom entry, which is really funny looking back on it. You have some Velcro that you open up, and you get under it, and you crawl up in it, and then when you put your feet in it, it would just close back. The Velcro would just automatically close back. And, you know, that doesn't work real well if you're trying to crawl in a sleeping bag or, you know, trying to get insulation under you to have your bottom open. Anyway. All right, enough of that. Anything else? Okay, so now if anyone wants to go upstairs and take a look at that XLC, I can answer any questions up there, and whoever wants to climb in it is welcome to climb in the hammock. Remember the one thing that he said, when you're getting in the hammock, never try to move around or adjust your position by grabbing the netting or anything above you. Grab the fabric below you to move yourself around, because that's where the strength and support of the hammock is.
What about when you're setting the height of it? I noticed that he was sitting down and he had his weight on it. He had his feet on the ground. I guess you learn how much is going to dip when you know through use as far as.
It dips very little, unless it's a Hennessy. I don't know what. Hennessy's don't have a structural ridge line. You saw him adjust that, show you the ridge. That's a structural ridge line. And because it has that structural ridge line, it's not going to drop very much. But yeah, you do learn. But, you know, what you want is a comfortable height, a sitting height. That's where you want to end up. So when you get out your hammock, you just can stand up. Yeah. What causes it to sag like that, Tim?
Material, the hammock itself.
Hmm.
So it will start coming down. It won't sag a lot, but it will sag. I tell you that you put it, you hook it up to the trees, and I love it. Once you get in that tub, sit in it, make sure that it's chair height.
So it's not made out of sil nylon? Yeah, this is all sil nylon with the war bonnet, and boy, there's just very little stretch. But I always notice every time someone sets up a Hennessy, yeah, they stretch it straight out, you know. Like he says, up there at eye level, I'm always looking at, trying to figure out, how does that work for him? Because...
Yeah, because I noticed in the video, he talks about the angles of the straps, and I always assumed that he just set it straight, and then the weight of it.
Right. He told you to step back a little bit and look for a 25 to 30 degree angle with your straps, and that's off of level. And that's when you know you have it adjusted right.
Here's a nice little trick for that 30-degree angle. If you hold your hand, this part right here, horizontal to level, from here to here, on most people, that's going to be 30 degrees. So you can get a good close estimate.
What kind of hammock do you sleep in?
I don't hammock camp. I sell them.
Oh,
Actually,
yeah.
I do hammock camp. I have an but like the guideline is
Right. And do you use the same guideline for the Enos, the 30 degrees?
generally I'm looking for close to the same exact thing.
Yeah.
There is different materials have different dynamics. So you're gonna have to factor that in, and it's kind of just a learning curve of what you have.
Yeah.
I do hammock camp.
You just didn't want to admit it.
You don't have a YouTube on how to set up the tarp?
Sure. There's a YouTube on setting up the tarp.
You got time for that? But you got different types of tarp. You can do the Superfly or one of those.
Rachel, you want to roll that? He wants to know if we have time to show the tarp setup. So go back to the War Bonnet first page. Videos. I'm sorry, I should have said videos. Yeah. Basic tarp setup. And the first thing I want y'all to notice is how many lines. The first time you're going to set up a Superfly, it's going to take you a while because you got an awful lot of lines that if you set them all, you're going to be setting them. And adjusting. You need the two for the ridge right away. You got to have that one. Generally, you need the four corners. Kind of need those. But then beyond that, you have one on each door. You have two doors on each end, so that's four more if you bother to set those. And you don't necessarily need to when it's warm. Are you trying to roll the tarp? Okay. All right, don't know what happened to him. That line, that yellow line he was showing, I think they have it here. This is Daima. It won't hold. If you do a taut line hitch, it won't hold. This is slippery stuff. But it's very lightweight, very tangle-free. It has like a 400-pound tensile strength. And the best thing about it is when you set your tarp with this kind of line, it's not going to stretch out and get loose on you. What's that?
It's kind of like gel spun fishing line.
It is the same stuff as spider wire. Of those different high-tech, no-stretch fishing lines, what it is. All of those Dutch clips he had are really nice. They are extremely tiny and elegant and a bit pricey. Who won? Robert, you won the 90s? Yeah. Robert won a bigger pair. This is what I use to stretch my tarp out because it's got a little pulley and it sets itself really quick. So I just pass it around the tree, pull it through, put this hook on the eye, and just set it. Works pretty good.
You have one for all the...
No, I only use that for both ends of my my ridge line for my tarp. Right, from the ridge to the tree. All right, any other questions? All right, for those of you who want to go upstairs and see the hammock, we're going to go up there and I'm going to first show you how to take it down because it's set up right now, and then I'm going to put it back up so you can see how to set it up, and then anyone who cares to crawl in and see how comfortable it is, I think y'all will be welcome to do that after. This is the XLC. One of the main differences is, you know, they've moved this area and this area further forward towards the head, and it's 1 foot longer than the Blackbird that we were looking at. The other difference is that it only has one zipper right here, and you can take the whole top off and change it to the solid top for wintertime camping, which I can't wait to try that out. But
So it comes with both the mosquito net and the solid top?
I'm sorry, say again?
It comes with both the mosquito net and the solid top?
No, no. No, it's another $65 to get the top cover, it's called. And if you're going to get a top cover, you need to order your top cover with your hammock because they manufacture it together to make sure it's going to fit. So that's why I bought mine in the spring. I don't need it till next year, till way in the fall, but I had to get it because...
If you bought it and then next year you wanted a top, could you all make it standard for that same model? You don't have to buy it at the exact same time.
Brandon, I'm told on the website that you have to order it together. Now, there is a company that makes some really nice top covers that will work with your Blackbird.
Oh, really?
I'll have to give you that link. They do have a really nice one. Okay, so to take it down, one of the things he said, and it's very good advice, is we like to throw that line inside. Because if you throw that line in, when you zip up and you close up, it won't get tangled with this line. So that's the first thing. To take it down, that one will just hang. I'm going to show you how to take it down so that I can show you how to put it back together after. So you definitely want to start at the bishop sack, close that end up, unhook it through the carabiner. Uh-oh. No, it's a whole pad under.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to come out too.
You see it's a double bottom.
Yeah.
So there's the pad that was at the bottom. So yeah, I'd advise you to take the pad out first.
And that access is on the inside. The access to the...
I'll show you when we set up. We're in takedown mode. As soon as I go back to the setup mode, we'll cover that. All right. So I just start grabbing handfuls and stuffing. Now let me make sure it's looking right. Yes, it is. So this silk nylon is just very, very thin and strong, and that's why you can get all this material into this little bitty stuff sack. Don't get away from me. Really, at times, it seems like it's not going to work, but come on. I don't know what my problem is this time. I should have disconnected that end first. But finally, I got it in there. And once it's in, then I tend to take the straps, coil them up, and shove them back in. Because there's still plenty more compressibility to be able to get a lot more room in the bag. All right, so just the setup. I believe this is 15 foot apart. So generally, I go about that high at 15 foot. Now, remember they said from some places will say 12, some places will go as far as 20 feet. Well, if you're going to 20 feet, you're going to be pushing high as you can up there. You probably wouldn't have a problem. On the other hand, us short folks going to have a bit more of an
I've heard
issue.
that you can measure, they said like three paces or 6 steps. That's a good distance
No.
between the two. That's
3 paces is 9 foot. Your hammock's 10 foot to start with,
You do?
without even straps. No, you need at least 4 paces.
4 paces.
At least. Yeah, that's 12 feet.
12, yeah, 12 to 15 is like that.
This is 15.
No, I mean,
At least that was the specification I gave
I said 3
Uh,
paces were
Amy.
like 6 steps, 6 big steps.
Hang on to that for a second. So if this is 15 feet, then that's 5 steps.
Just fine.
Yep. So this is right about 15 feet,
Okay.
which is, I've always found to be the ideal length is 15 feet. And the reason I find it to be ideal is at the end of my hammock, I don't want a tree right in my way. I want to have some room to come in and out of it. So I'll show you more about what I'm talking about in a minute. So to set it up, I can manage. That's what you got to do when you're by yourself. Is set that up, pull it tight. Well, the bad thing about the way I'm trying to demo is the strap's already set right for the length to get to 30 degrees. But if you recall in the video, he takes it, he spreads it a little bit, and then you can feed it or you can pull it. Very easy with this split ring. And the other thing he said was, I like to throw this back up through there just to get it out the way. The other thing, you do want the foot to be significantly higher than the head, especially on this XLC model. And another tip I'll tell y'all, y'all remember the Dutch clip? Or even if you're using carbiners, notice there's 2 different colors. That one's orange, that one's silver. This Dutch clip, I marked it with black marker. Because when I'm going to set up, I want to know which end I'm getting in from. So my code is, if it's black, I get against a tree, the left side is the side I'm getting in and out of my hammock. And to me, that's always very important. Because I camp a lot in the wintertime, that way's north. You know, if there's a north wind blowing, I want it to come from this side of my hammock. My Superfly on this side will be down low. I will not do pullouts on this side. My south side is going to be up a lot higher, and I'm going to use those pullouts because I want room right here to change, dress, hang out, whatever. This is like my space that I'm living in on this side. I don't go on that side of the hammock. So that's why I want to cut off that north wind. I also want to invite a south wind to come on in. If it's blowing out the south, chances are you want the wind. All right, so I'm not doing a good job of getting it significantly lower. Because one thing, the Superfly is so low. But yeah, that's significant. All right, so I would do that. So then you grab the bungee, and there's a nail right here. And of course, this is super adjustable. It covers a wide length from very close to very far. All right, so you open this up next. Pull that out. Now, I thought John and I had put a nail here, but I haven't found where we did it. So all I did was pass the loop back through itself, which is basically a girth hitch. Made a loop, came underneath this banister ring right there, and hooked it on. So that's all it took. Also, so here's that living space, like I said, and the reason I want that extra distance of that tree is here's where I'm going to go in and out of my hammock under my tarp, because a tarp, you know, is going to make a little camp tent area for you, if you will. So when you're getting in it, all right, the first thing you're going to do is ease on down. Make sure you got good support, everything locked in. Then, as Brandon showed you, you check that this isn't guitar string tight. You see, I can bend it about the right amount, so I know, okay, I got about the right 25 to 30 degree angle. So the next thing I would do is get my zipper where I can reach it. Finish it off. Now, grabbing the quilt, the under fabric is how you move around. So I start to move towards the foot box over here, and I get at an angle, and I don't know if you could tell, but from my head to close to my knees, my torso's flat. I'm very comfortable. So what I said about the quarter turn, okay, what if I want to be quarter on my side, you know? You could do that if you want to go all the way on your side. By the time I get all the way on my side, I like a little bit of a pillow, you know. Could be a rolled up pair of blue jeans or whatever. In the middle of the night, I swing over. I like to sleep on both sides. I'm pretty flat. Some people sleep all fetal position, all knotted up, and some people stretch out more. I mean, you can do it all. You can definitely sleep on your stomach. It is flat enough to sleep on your stomach. I don't know. I'm breathing pretty good right through the fabric, I guess. My nose is right in it. I'm still alive, so I guess I'm breathing. And so, you know, it's pretty easy to move around as long as you're just grabbing the bottom. Now, the next thing I want to address is that that mat, because y'all wanted to see how that mat goes in. So you'll notice right here is the opening for the double bottom. And once it's zipped, got to go from back here. Lost my mic. Lost the battery. All right. Once it's zipped, you still do have access to the double bottom. Although I don't recommend you getting in the hammock until you have your mat under you. And y'all notice we didn't even bother to let hardly any air in here. You want it very flexible. And so you go to the opening, stuff this in it. Oh, yes. I'd say that mat's probably sufficient down to 60 degrees. You know, and everything also depends on how you're dressed. Say again?
Is that by itself or is that with the cover on top too?
Yeah, no, you're going to need a cover on top as well, for sure. You're going to need something on bottom and top at 60 degrees. It's quite cool.
Is it netting to zip all the way off, or is it just access to the inside?
This netting zips all the way off, and it also has these keepers. Now, the regular Blackbird does not. The regular Blackbird has two zippers and zips both ways, and you can fold it up and roll it up. Let me show you how you get rid of the netting while we're at it.
I think we'd have to do that in Louisiana.
Yeah, but
Zipper on this side too.
hopefully you're not going to limit your camping to Louisiana. What's that, Robert?
You can't have the both the cover and the net.
No.
You gotta have either.
You got to have either or because there's only one set of zippers. So yeah, so that's how you get the mosquito net out of your way. On the other blackbird, this would zip all the way back to here. This one, I think the intention is mostly take the whole thing off if you don't want it. You know.
What about mosquitoes from the bottom?
I have been bit through the fabric. Even though some people say mosquitoes can't bite through a double layer of anything, this is a double 1.1, and I've been bitten. My wife and I spent one night at Paddle-In Campsite number 4, Highland Waters at Lake Foss Point. Mosquitoes were horrendous. They were biting right through this fabric. But, you know, you would want to have some kind of padding under you to protect that.
Yeah, you should always have a padding system.
Yep. All right, young lady, you going to crawl in it? Show us how it works?
So let's talk about treating it with, what? Say again?
Mm-hmm. Try to put your feet towards this way and your head come towards this way a little bit.
How is it?
How is it?
Okay.
You look flat to me.
Pretty much flat.
That pad under there, that's something that you purchase extra when you get your...
Oh yeah, that's not even a war bonnet.
Oh,
I think that's a thermarest.
Yeah.
Like,
I've got bunches of thermal.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Most everything is modular. Different. You can have a different brand of everything.
Sleeping mats that you can buy at Walmart or whatever. Yeah, that compressed.
Yeah, there's all kind of mats up there.
Use that on that.
You can use a yoga pad. Did y'all notice the shelf, by the way?
Yeah.
This is a shelf right here. Once he gets in, I'll show you.
Yeah,
For putting your stuff.
Generally, you're going to want your cell phone right there, if nothing else, so you can know what time it is when you wake up in the middle of the night.
Our alarm clock.
All right. So right now we don't have this stretched out, so it's a bit awkward. So let me get this stretched out for you. In the wintertime, you might not want it stretched. But do you feel comfortable?
Oh, yeah.
You stay in it a while, you'll be sleeping. Always be sure to unzip a whole bunch when you're getting in and out so that you don't stress the zipper. Give him 5 minutes, he'd be snoring.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Well, this strap system right here, is this unique to this particular manufacturer? Or
It does
most
come
of them
with the
terminated
hammock.
Like this, and that's the end of it?
Yeah, and you don't have to get this type of strap, even with this model. You can get the whoopee sling system. It's $10 more, and Shug, that's what he uses because he's a backpacker and every ounce counts. He thinks the whoopee sling system is a little bit lighter. This isn't very heavy to me. It doesn't bother me at all.
So is this the thicker model? Or
No, they make thinner, but this is,
that's a...
okay, you're in a Hennessy.
Oh, okay. I just picked this one up.
Yeah, wrong brand. But this is the 1.1. You can get this hammock in a single layer 1.1.
Okay.
This is a double layer 1.1. You can get it in a single 1.7. And the number represents ounces per square yard, I believe.
Okay.
I have a double 1.7, which is
You're talking about a minuscule amount of weight.
minuscule amount of weight.
For traditional strength. But it's
Right.
Yeah, you're increasing your strength by close to 50%.
Right.
It's not always
Yeah. Yeah. See, I think that pill is way too fat too much loft for me if I'm sleeping in this hammock. How much of a pillow do you use, Robert? Robert sleeps in a Blackbird.
Well, you know, just what I presented sometimes I use, I just use some camping clothes.
Yeah, right.
Jeans or something. I don't have a.
Don't have a pillow, right? I mean, a lot of people do that. Wintertime, you roll up a sweater, it's nice and soft. How's it going?
Good. This is a 1.7 right here.
I didn't think he got any other 1.7s. Yeah, it's a 1.7. I'm wondering if it's a double. Do we see that? Yeah, double 1.7.
Oh.
Yep, that's the double 1.7. Sure enough, and that's a XLC. It says that on it. Yeah, that's my go-to hammock right there. Yeah. Yeah, good for 400 pounds. Bring a friend. Anybody else want to crawl in? And normally before I lay back, I bring the zipper down to a reachable distance and then finish it off. So once you're in there, yep, try to get on that angle.
Don't close your eyes.
You sleep on your back?
Yeah, I do.
I tend to lay on my back for about 10 or 15 minutes, but it's probably really 5. And then I roll on my side and fall asleep. I go to sleep really quick.
I mean, this doesn't even prepare all the mattress.
Is this yours? You put that down?